Perfect. So it looks like it's 9 o'clock now. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. We've got people still coming in. So just before we get started, I wanted to go over a couple of things. We've got a couple different ways to make maps today, or at least get tactile graphics maps. One of the ways is where to find them and how to get the maps you're looking for. And then the other one we're going to go over today is how to create maps. So we'll be using a couple different tools. We'll get started here in just a couple minutes. We got 6 more people that just joined in here in the last minute or so. So maybe just a second for the last couple people to jump in on the call. So actually, I'm going to throw a quick poll up real quick. I actually didn't really plan on this one, but actually, if you could put in the chat, how many of you were here 2 weeks ago for the creating tactile graphics? And how many of you is this the first time that you're attending one of the View Plus webinars? First one, perfect. Okay, so we've got quite a few first people. Second, awesome. So last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a webinar on how to create tactile graphics. One of the big things that everybody had asked for in that was how to create tactile maps, which is why we're here today, is going over how to create tactile maps. Lindsey makes a lot of the coloring books, a lot of the graphic design items that we have on the website. So she's going to show you some of the more technical side. And then I'm going to go through today and show you where I find my maps, where you can find maps to print. See, since we've got a lot of first timers, I'm gonna actually do a poll here on what embosser do you have. I'm just kind of curious as we're going through this. It helps me kind of tailor the training today to the specific embossers if somebody has something specific. I can go over that. Do not have one. Okay. Pix Blaster, great. Looks like quite a bit of Elite Premieres, some Spot Dots, Columbia. Great. We have a few. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we've got quite a few people on the call. We're about 5 minutes 5 minutes after 9. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. First off, and this is going to be less focused on the Tiger software suite. The last webinar was more Tiger software suite and how to create tactile graphics. This one's we're really not going to use the Tiger software suite much in this training. I want to go over a couple different ways on how to get maps. So I'm going to share my screen here. And let's see. So the first first place I usually like to look, and this is, a little bit biased here, but working in View Plus, we do have quite a few maps that we've made. You can go over to the Resources tab on on our website, and we have two different areas: the Braille map examples, and then also the tactographic geography examples. The Braille map examples is kind of the main one, but we have maps in here that are already pre-made. Most of them are on larger paper size. So we have world map, Austria, Belgium. We have a lot of European countries here. Those of you that have been to one of the shows and seen our embossers at a show, we usually have the US map. And so that is actually this map here. So we have a US map. We've also got the Canadian map. Several maps here are already pre-made. Usually if you're looking for a map, it's best not to reinvent the wheel. And if the map's already there, a lot of times you can download this. So with this is the doc file. So you can download it and edit it yourself. And then print it out on your embosser. So this is the first place I would check is our maps. The second one in here is the tactile graphic geography. This is a little bit more tailored towards the Aveo. So we have the Aveo, which is an audio tactile graphic device. And a lot of these, the Aveo is fantastic with maps because you can fit a lot of information into that with without needing all of the extra braille. So as you touch different parts of the map, it will speak different countries or different data that you would put in. So this is where we have a lot of our Aveo maps. With that, I know this is about maps, but we do have a lot of other examples on here. So we've got math examples, and also science. So this was one of the cool ones that went over the 2024 solar eclipse with the map, the path of the eclipse. So going onto the website in the resources tab, there are tons of different pages on maps and science, geography. So yeah, tons of stuff to explore on our library. With that said, that's just our library. The other library that is really popular is the APH Tactile Graphics Image Library. And so if you just search Google for the Tactile Graphics Image Library from APH, you can sign up for an account to sign in, and then once you get there, it will ask you to sign in. There's a lot more than just maps on here. If I remember right, I had this yesterday, and I believe it was under science. No, it's not under science. Social studies. And so there are several different maps already listed in here. I know on the View Plus website, they're a little bit more generic. So if we click on United States, they have all kinds of stuff, kind of tailored for the school curriculum. So that, the 13 colonies, there's a different view of that, the 48 states plus Mexico. And then there's each individual state on a lot of these with outlines. So this is a great place to start if you're looking for a map. There's also, yeah, great place to start. Like this one here, Kansas has a ton of stuff. There's a detailed map, the rivers and lakes in Kansas. So the APH Tactile Graphics Image Library is fantastic. With that, it's not just tactile graphics. Again, there's a lot of very fun things to do in here for education purposes. So there's science. We already went over the social studies, um, but in science, you can dive into some of the different tactographics. There's the cell of an animal. The fun part about this is go up here to actions on any one of these maps or diagrams and just click download. This will download uh, you can have it include the PDF here. And if you want to do the original and hit download, this will download. Uh, this will download the map or the schematic that you're looking for. While we are kind of going over, I guess let's go back to questions. So far, does anybody have any questions on any of those resources on where to find maps? Or I guess, has anybody explored the APH Tactographics image library or the View Plus Tactographics that we have as maps on the website? Has anybody explored those before? Awesome. So Tina has explored both. Yes, both. Okay, cool. I use APH regularly. Okay, great. Now, so the other one that I really enjoy, and this was popular a couple years ago, but this was the Tactographics image library from Lighthouse, and this would basically what Lighthouse would do is as there was um, news articles, you could submit what you wanted for the news articles, and um, they would make news articles as a tactographic. So some were maps, some were not maps, but similar to that, like the baseball field layout um, and the maps of Russia and Ukraine. There was a lot of different tactographics that Lighthouse uh, would show, and you could download these. These would print directly on any of the View Plus. So it had the PRN file for the View Plus Columbia Delta, the Pix Blaster, the IRI Braille track or Braille sheet, and you could also do PDFs for Swell. So this had a lot of kind of news oriented stuff, but you could get maps from it. Um, the the one that I like to use, I use Google Maps a lot, um, and so sometimes with Google Maps, there's just too much data in there to make a tactographic, which is where again Lighthouse is really shining here for making maps. Um, I like to use T-maps because you can kind of specify that and use it the same way that you would uh, use Google Maps. Um, so we're in B Plus in Corvallis. So I'm going to just search here for Corvallis, Oregon. And this will bring up maps um, very similar to Google Maps. You can specify the paper size that you want to use. Uh, I usually like to go as big as possible. Actually, we're going to do 17 by 11. And uh, you can adjust this map however however you want to however you want to adjust it to get the information that you're looking for. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. This is kind of downtown Corvallis. I want to show a map of the streets. Um, I don't really want to show the paths on this one, so I'm going to leave that off. They have service roads and railways, so let's add railways in here. I'm going to move the map around. Same thing, same way you would with Google Maps. Uh, Once you get the map the way you want, you can click on Create Map, and this will create create the tactile graphic with labels on it. So this shows creating the map on here. So we have the railway going through the city. We have kind of the center point of where we had searched for. And then each one of the abbreviations for the streets is also listed on the map. The downside to Tmaps is I don't think that it works outside of North America. So I have seen it work in the US, Canada, and Mexico. There may be other countries, but I've not been able to use that outside of that. The cool thing is we can do New York searches. I have never been to New York. I'm going to say that I don't necessarily want to see the streets. I want to see the paths, the railways. And I'm going to create a map here because I would probably be using public transportation if I went to New York. And it shows the different paths. Looks like the railways are showing up a little bit on there as well. But from here, you can download the maps. Let's go back. Let's do one more here. Um, do San Francisco. We're doing a great big. Oops. Yeah, we'll do 11 by 17. Let's zoom out as far as we can. I actually don't want. I'm gonna do. Should be. The Golden Gate Bridge. So we'll do some of the roads over close to the Golden Gate Bridge. We'll say create map. Perfect. And then yeah, we can just hit download. So we'll download our Tmap. And so this just has the PDF. I usually end up using PDFs quite a bit. I know Lindsey likes using the SVG files. I'm not great with not great with that, but Lindsey's great with the SVG files, so she'll go over that. Just trying to got a little tab here to stop sharing, but I can't get my tab. But, okay. So yes, we have the Braille labels on the PDF. If we were to Control P, we could print this to the road sheet. So I'm going to print Tmap desktop. Oops. Looks like double check here. Yeah, we've got loaded in sideways, which you could rotate it, but it does have the map there of San Francisco. Now, I know that you can find SVG files, and that might be Lindsey usually finds the SVG files. I think it's on Wiki Commons. Is that correct, Lindsey?
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect. And do you want to go? Do you want to show how where you find the SVG files and how you would create tactile graphics from some of those SVG files?
Sure.
And while she is setting up to share her screen, has anybody used Tmaps before? Yes. No. Okay. So pretty good mix of Tmaps. I know Lindsey's going to show kind of how to create web Tmaps, but I haven't used it. Awesome. Lindsey is going to show how to create maps from SVG files. As we're getting into that, has anybody made maps from SVG files or created their own maps before? Got one no on that one. Created them by hand. I've created several of my own. Awesome. No, a little bit of a mix. For those of you that have created your own maps, um, oh, this is cool. Uh, Caroline, that's fantastic. Um, okay, so those of you that have created your own maps, um, what types of software do you normally use to make your tactographics maps? Microsoft Word? Nope, I'm
No,
not going to laugh at that.
we
I uh,
love
I use
Word.
I use Paint, which I think is a step below Microsoft Word. Paint, awesome. Or, uh, Corel Draw, Tiger Designer, Corel Draw is great. Word, awesome. So I think Lindsey's gonna show a little bit in Illustrator, um, and I am ready. Ready if you are to go over some of those maps, Lindsey.
Yep. So you can find a lot of SVG maps on Wikimedia Commons. I found a whole category for Oregon maps, and I'm going to be editing this one, which is a map of the 5 regions of Oregon. So I'm going to open this in Illustrator. And there's a couple different way you can edit maps depending on what programs you have, what file type you're working with. Um, Adobe Illustrator files, PDF, SVG can all be edited with Adobe Illustrator or similar program like CorelDRAW. If you have a PDF, you can edit that with Acrobat or another PDF editor. If you have SVG, you can also edit that with a text editor or any type of text editor, even Notepad. I use a open source code editor called Brackets, and there is a complete in-depth tutorial for editing SVG code. It is blindsvg.com, and Marco was in our webinar 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure if he's here today, but it's a very good tutorial and very in-depth. I'm just going to open this in Illustrator, but my computer's being a little slow.
I don't see Marco on today's call.
Oh, if you have a flat map like a JPEG or a PNG, you can edit it with Photoshop or another image editor, but your options are going to be a little bit limited. Oh, someone else uses brackets. So here's the SVG. We've got a layer for each county. I'm going to start off with expanding the canvas to 11.5 by 11 because that's the paper size I'm going to be working with. So if we go to print this, we'll see what it looks like before we do anything to it. I'm going to print to I'm going to change the paper size to 11.5 by 11. And I have print preview turned on for my Rogue sheet. So when I hit print, it'll pop up with a preview and I can confirm what the tactile output's going to look like. And even though we have 7 different dot heights to work with, when you have colors that are similar intensity, they can end up being the same or similar dot height. So feeling this would be a little too confusing. So I'm going to show how you can use color patterns, which are built into the driver of all of our embossers, to make a better map. So we're going to turn on color patterns, and you can do that by opening the print properties of your embosser, printing preferences, and then go to the Tiger tab and select more options. And then there's going to be a checkbox for apply patterns. And we have default patterns. You can also make your own. I'm going to apply that and hit OK. Get back to the print screen and print that, and now see what it looks like. So now we have the color patterns, and you can see that blue is a wave pattern, yellow is vertical lines, green is this like grass pattern, and then red is a brick pattern, and orange is supposed to be little circles, but it looks like this shade of orange got mapped to red instead, so we can edit that. And I also think the green pattern, the red pattern, especially in such a small area, is a little bit too similar, so I'm going to swap that out for a different color that's that's a different pattern. And I'm also going to select each of these regions and Control G to group them together so I can more easily select each of them. You can also Control click to select multiple layers at once. So I'm going to edit the orange. Make it a little bit more orange. And then I'm going to swap out the green for purple because that's a more distinctive pattern. So now let's see what it looks like. I think Illustrator might be crashing. There we go. So now we have orange mapped correctly. And this one has been swapped from green to purple. So instead of the grass pattern that's kind of similar to the brick pattern, we have dots. And this one over here, with how small these counties are, it can be kind of hard to pick out the wave pattern. So I think I'm going to swap the blue and the yellow. And these borders around the counties are also very light, very hard to pick out. So I'm going to change it to a black border so that the high dot height shows up better against the low dot height of the color patterns. So I'm going to select the whole thing and change the stroke color to black. Select same fill color. Oh yeah. And we'll do 2-point black border. I'm going to change the blue to yellow and the yellow to blue. And now we're going to print preview again. So now I'm pretty happy with how all of these regions have come out. It's much easier to tell this is yellow, this is blue. So now we're going to add a key. And I'm going to move this drawing up. And I'm going to add 5 squares for each of the colors. I'm going to draw one and then Control C, Control V to paste it. And I'm going to go back here. So outside of Word and Excel, you don't have the built-in Braille translator, but you can use the View Plus translator, which comes with TSS. So if you have TSS, you have this installed. And it can translate whatever you have copied to your clipboard. I'm going to draw a text box. And then I'm going to translate I'm actually going to change this to Northwest Oregon, Willamette Valley. And then I'm going to translate to grade 2. When you translate, it's already copied the translated version to your clipboard, so you don't need to copy it again. I'm going to paste that in there, and you can tell it doesn't really look like Braille because it's not formatted in a Braille font. So all you need to do is change it to Braille 36 US or whatever language you're using. If you have Braille 29 installed, that works as well. You just got to make sure it's the right font size. Since we're using Braille 36, I'm going to change it to 36 point. And since this is Northwest Oregon, I'm going to use the dropper tool to change it to yellow. You can also just edit the fill color in the appearance section, or if you're using a code editor, you can edit the fill color that way. And then I'm going to copy and paste this text box just to avoid having to format it again. So this will be Columbia River Gorge, and this one is purple. Here we have Central Oregon in red. Southern Oregon in orange. And then we have Eastern Oregon. I'm going to put one more text box up top for a label. And we're going to label this Regions of Oregon. So now we're going to do print preview again. And this is how it turns out. And I mentioned this before, but I'm using color patterns that have a lower dot height. I think it's dot height 3 compared to the outlines that are dot height 7. So you can easily tell what's the outline and what's the pattern. And you can make your own patterns. You don't have to use these. This is just what I use because I like how varied they are.
So if we were to get a map, this is great for the regions.
Hmm.
If we wanted to edit this even further, and let's say we just wanted to show the counties and maybe uh, the capital of Oregon, how would you go about editing uh, a map that maybe wasn't designed specifically for showing the regions?
So if you want to look at a specific region or specific counties, then you can hide or delete what you don't want to see. And this is made easier since I separated them into groups or grouped them into groups. So I can hide everything but um, the northwest portion of Oregon, and I can select this either by clicking and dragging, or you can select the group from your layers and resize. If you just resize, if you click and drag to resize, then it doesn't necessarily keep the dimensions. But if you hold shift and resize, then it'll keep the same, keep the height and width linked. And if you wanted to say to uh, put a dot to represent the capital, then you can select the star or the ellipse tool and just put a little dot. I'm going to change the fill color to just change it to dark gray. So now when we go to print, we have a little circle where Salem is.
That's great. And so like we have the map of the US. If you want to make a map of Oregon, you would just change the colors on all of this to white if it was similar to our US map
Right.
that
You
we
can,
we have at the shows.
yeah, you can change it to white, and when you go to print, there will be no fill in each of the counties. Or you could change it to a very light gray and have the lowest dot height.
That's great. So I've seen Corel Draw come up here a couple times, and I have not used Corel Draw a whole lot. I know Dan has used it. We've got some people that we work with that have used it a little bit. Um, the nice part about uh, take Illustrator for example. I'm not very good with Illustrator. Lindsey is great with Illustrator. Um, the, the point to the printers and the way we have them set up as a printer is you can really use whatever you're comfortable with. Um, some people on here have mentioned Microsoft Word. That's more my level of using Microsoft Word. Um, yeah, you can really use whatever it is you're comfortable with. Um, I learned some stuff today about the SVG files. I didn't know that they were that easy to work with and adjust in pulling out specific counties or regions in a state. Um, so um, the way Lindsey has shown this with Illustrator, I think is great. Um, I do have a couple polls. We're trying, so on the last webinar that we did, we had asked how frequently would people find value in us having another webinar on something specific. The choice last 2 weeks ago was most people wanted to see maps. Um, I want to give that same poll today. I'd like to have another webinar again in 2 weeks. But I'm curious, what is beneficial to you um, to to see us go over? So I'm going to launch the poll here. It's basically just a word cloud. Um, but I'm curious what's beneficial. So let's see. How do we get notified on your webinars? So I am sending out an email about a week in advance to sign up for the webinars. Um, and so um, we're going to try to have a webinar every 2 weeks. And so I think that this will be it's kind of going to be community led. And so this one was on maps. Um, if I view, looks like there's been a few responses here.
Do you send that email out to people who are subscribed to the newsletter?
Yes. So
Okay,
if you go
I'm going to
onto the
link that
website,
in the chat.
okay, perfect. So looks like this one here we have some STEM diagrams, um, graphs and shading, tips and tricks, tiger graphic. We've got math. So math seems to be pretty um, TSS, Braille. So I think probably in 2 weeks we'll do something on maybe STEM or STEM diagrams or math. Um, let me talk with the team. We'll see what we want to uh, how we want to do that presentation. But it's yeah, we can definitely do one on STEM diagrams and math. Does anybody have any questions? I know it's a little bit early. I feel like it was a kind of a wide variety of different ways to get maps. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to see before the training is over? Math. Perfect. So let's settle on that. We'll do math here on the next one. When I download APH graphics, the line comes out fine, but the braille is compressed. That is a good question. Let me I have not seen that, but let me take a look at that and see what I can come up with, and then I'll reach back out to you here, Justin. Basics of Illustrator. That would be a great Lindsey question on where. How did you learn Illustrator, Lindsey?
Um, I I pretty much just jumped into the fire. Um, I You can definitely find a lot of good tutorials for everything on YouTube. So I would just start by searching Illustrator tutorial on YouTube. Um, and I know that Adobe has really good documentation on all of their products, so that would be a good place to look as well.
Um, and so I am more of a Photoshop user. And one thing we did learn I think that was last year when we were working on a couple projects, is Photoshop tends to flatten the image before it sends it to the printer, um, which is which makes the braille not show up correctly. But if it's purely a graphic image, you can also use Photoshop as well. I'm more comfortable with Photoshop, but that's Lindsey has been basically doing the tactile graphics with Illustrator because it works so well with the braille and uh, the graphics. Beginner question. Um, my embosser doesn't appear when I click print and send files to Tactile Designer. Any tips or suggestions? So we so when you install and I can give you a call on this one, Gregory. So when I install a printer, I install it. Yeah, I usually install it twice. So I install the printer to where when you print, it'll print directly to the printer like it normally does with any other printer. Uh, I will usually add a second printer to that, um, and I add that second printer as a print to file. So you'll see Lindsey, as she was designing the tactile graphic, went back and forth several times to see how it was going to look. A lot of times, it helps to have that set up as a print to file printer as well. And we have a video on how to set up a print to file printer. But what that does is it basically allows you to see what it's going to look like before you actually send it to the printer. Saves a lot of paper and a lot of time as you're moving fairly quickly through creating tactile graphics. Um, but yeah, if you want, I can give you a call and we can diagnose if maybe there's something weird going on with the printer, but it should show up uh, to be able to print to Tactile Designer. Um, we've got about 10 minutes left here. Is any other questions or anything before we call it a great Wednesday and wrap up the meeting?
I do want to note with the problem of the braille being compressed.
Mhm.
If you're printing when you're printing, you want to make sure that if there's braille in the document, that you're printing at full size, like it's not shrinking the graphic and the braille to fit to the page, because that can mess
Oh
up the
yeah,
braille. So that might be the problem.
we can uh, we can look through that a little bit too, and see if we can replicate that Looks like we have Justin. Yeah, it looks like I'll follow up with Justin on that and see if we can figure out what has caused that issue. Perfect. Well, I think that's it. Thank you everyone for joining the training. I will send out an invite next week, probably around next Wednesday, um, for signing up for our math or STEM training here in 2 weeks. And if you do show up next week, bring ideas of what else you would like to see, and we'll have another one here in a month. Thank you.